The world didn't end with a fire from the sky, but it came very close. At the end of the last ice age, roughly 12,800 years ago, something hit Earth's climate like a sledgehammer. Temperatures that had been slowly rising plummeted again. Mammoths, giant ground sloths, and saber-toothed cats vanished within centuries, and human populations collapsed. Scientists call it the Younger Dryas event. It began almost instantly, around 10,800 BC, and lasted over 1,000 years. The trigger? No one agrees. Some blame a massive meltwater flood that disrupted ocean currents. Others point skyward to a swarm of comets that may have exploded in Earth's atmosphere. Whatever it was, it changed everything. Across North America and Eurasia, archaeologists have found a thin black layer of carbon-rich sediment dated exactly to this period. It contains melted microspherules, nanodiamonds, and platinum, elements linked to cosmic impacts. They call it the Younger Dryas boundary layer. In Greenland ice cores, the evidence is even starker. Within a few years, temperatures dropped by as much as 10 degrees Celsius. Glaciers that had been retreating suddenly grew again. Dust darkened the sky, rivers froze, rain stopped. If you were alive then, everything you knew about the world changed in a generation. Thousands of years later, when writing finally returned, stories of this disaster were still told. In Sumerian texts, the gods sent a flood to erase a noisy human race. In the book of Genesis, Noah builds an ark to survive the waters. In India, Manu is warned by a fish and saves the seeds of life. The Maya tell of sky fire and dark rain. The Inca remember a time when the sun did not rise. Different cultures, same story. A world that burned and then drowned. When the ice finally melted, sea levels rose more than 120 meters. Entire coastlines vanished, including every ancient harbor we might have built. If civilizations had flourished before, they were gone beneath the ocean. Geologists have mapped drowned river valleys off India, the Persian Gulf, and the Caribbean, once fertile land now lost beneath waves. Sonar surveys show patterns that look unnervingly artificial. We can't prove what they were, but we can prove they're old. And then slowly, humanity rose again. Farming appeared in Mesopotamia, settlements in Egypt, stone structures in Anatolia. It was as if knowledge survived in fragments, handed down by survivors of a forgotten age. When the ice finally melted, sea levels rose more than 120 meters. Entire coastlines vanished, including every ancient harbor we might have built. If civilizations had flourished before, they were gone beneath the ocean. Geologists have mapped drowned river valleys off India, the Persian Gulf, and the Caribbean, once fertile land now lost beneath waves. Sonar surveys show patterns that look unnervingly artificial. We can't prove what they were, but we can prove they're old. And then slowly, humanity rose again. Farming appeared in Mesopotamia, settlements in Egypt, stone structures in Anatolia. It was as if knowledge survived in fragments, handed down by survivors of a forgotten age. Every myth begins as memory. Perhaps the story of Atlantis, a great civilization lost to flood, isn't fiction, but collective trauma retold for millennia. Plato said Atlantis fell 9,000 years before Solon. That's roughly the same era as the Younger Dryas. What if the story was never about a mythical island, but about the entire planet? Because from South America to the Mediterranean, from India to the Pacific, The legends agree on one thing: a time of fire, darkness, and water that erased the old world and began our own.
History doesn't repeat, it resets. And every time it does, the survivors wake in a silent world, surrounded by ruins they no longer understand. Imagine watching the sky darken for months, the sun blotted out by ash and ice dust. The animals vanish, the rivers turn black, entire forests burn and freeze in the same season. The few who survive, they stop building, they start hiding. Those are the people who eventually become our ancestors. They rebuild, not from ignorance, but from fear. The next generations are told stories. Stories about gods with fire in their hands, floods sent to punish humanity, serpents falling from the sky. But those stories weren't born as myths. They were warnings, eyewitness accounts, remembered as religion when memory faded. And maybe that's why almost every ancient culture, no matter how distant, repeats the same pattern. Golden Age, cataclysm, silence, rebirth. It's not coincidence, it's memory. To ancient people, the night sky was not just decoration, it was the clock of fate. They knew that the heavens moved slowly, predictably, like gears in a cosmic machine. But sometimes, the machine breaks. Modern scientists now recognize patterns in the Taurid meteor stream, a vast trail of debris left by a giant comet that broke apart tens of thousands of years ago. Earth crosses that stream twice every year, in June and November. Within it lie hundreds of near-Earth asteroids, many the size of city blocks. Astronomers believe one of these fragments may have struck the planet around 12,800 years ago, igniting wildfires, melting ice sheets, and darkening the atmosphere. If that's true, then the catastrophe wasn't random. It was scheduled. What if Göbekli Tepe, the Sphinx, or the pyramids weren't just religious symbols, but observatories, tracking the sky for when the debris returns? They weren't praying to the stars, they were watching them. Even today, ancient star maps and temple alignments point toward constellations linked to that very same meteor path: Taurus, Orion, and the Pleiades. To them, these weren't just animals or gods, they were coordinates. The ancients may have written their greatest fear into stone. When the bull rises, beware the fire in the sky. As the world thawed and the ice sheets retreated, survivors migrated, carrying fragments of their lost world's knowledge: geometry, agriculture, sky law, and architecture. Everywhere they went, they built in stone, perhaps because they'd seen what floods can do to wood and clay. That's why the world's oldest monuments, from Turkey to Peru to India, all share something uncanny. Massive stone blocks, astronomical alignments, serpents, and suns carved in relief. Different languages, same motifs, same fears. Even the mathematics behind some ancient sites, their proportions, alignments, and measurements, echo a level of precision that should have taken thousands of years to develop. But what if it didn't evolve? What if it survived? These survivors may have been the teachers, remembered in myths, the gods who arrived from the sea, the bringers of fire, writing, and knowledge. To a population that had forgotten the world before, a single literate engineer would look divine. The story of the gods descending from the heavens might simply be the story of humans returning from the ruins. So here we are, in a new golden age, again watching the skies, again forgetting the past. We build towers higher than ever. We record everything, convinced that this time our knowledge will last forever. The truth is, we're just the next line in a repeating story. A story carved in ice, stone, and memory. A story of fire that falls from heaven and water that rises from the sea. If Göbekli Tepe was the first temple of the New World, maybe it was built as both tribute and warning. To remember what came before, and to say, we are still here. 12,000 years ago, the world was reborn from ash and water. If the cycle holds true, someday it will be again. When that day comes, will we still be the builders of stone, or the next forgotten myth?